Draft begins.
Hello and welcome to the North American Lunaris Tournaments, and this is powered by, as you know, Team Lunaris. I'm your host, Mr. Rocks1337, and today we have Vainglory Esports going against Veni Vidi Vici. Vainglory Esports taking the A side, Veni Vidi Vici taking the B side. Xenology going for the first ban, Baron ban. Pretty interesting ban, as he's been doing a lot of damage, as everyone knows, with the basic attacks, and in the new update he hasn't been nerfed, and as mentioned, well, previously it was mentioned that there's going to be a 5% reduction, but it didn't happen. Although we're looking at a Grace ban coming in from Veni Vidi Vici, I don't think that's sort of a strong ban right now, just because of the fact that her B does not usually land as successfully, or possibly they feel that Vainglory Esports are pretty well versed with Grace. But a Catherine pick coming in from Vainglory Esports, probably looking towards a stun train, but this is well countered by an Arden and a Vox pick. Well, as we knew in patch 2.5, he was a very strong, they both were very strong heroes on the foe, and now that Vox has been nerfed by about 10% attack speed, it would seem for a second that he has been nerfed, but it's not by a lot. We're looking at an Arden as well. He has been able to drop in a lot of barriers, so if they keep dropping those barriers onto Vox has a possibility of surviving. But we're looking at a Catherine, a Celeste, and a Glaive, so a lot of peels can be expected from Vainglory Esports onto Veni Vidi Vici for their damage dealers. But a Taka pick coming in from Veni Vidi Vici to counter Celeste, I wouldn't think it's sort of a strong pick, because Taka can be easily flared out by Celeste's basic attacks, and if not that, Catherine or Glaive, either of them would be dropping in a lot of scout traps, so they will have to be very careful about those. Other thing to note is that Glaive is also a very strong peeler for Vainglory Esports. Looking at a Catherine pick along with Glaive, we are possibly going to be expecting a lot of stuns and a lot of crowd control. Looking at a triple stun comp going against the only possible stun coming in from Arden, that is only if he's able to drop in a successful gauntlet onto any two members of the three team. Oh, oops, we're looking at the disconnection. That's awkward. It'll be fixed, don't worry about it. Hopefully it gets sorted out. Alright, we are back in the game, so we're looking at a slight aggression coming in from Vainglory Esports, but nothing much, as they decided to head back, go back into the back farms, get some minions, and try to get those goals up. Vox, on the other hand, getting those minions up in the lane. Catherine trying to build up some stacks, nothing much, just taking more damage than she could actually deal for the stacks that she's trying to get, and about 1 minute in, we're just looking at one stack. She has to bring that up by a lot, and she goes in to drop in a stun on Vox, but Vox does manage to Sonic Zoom away from danger. Celeste has her level 2, so that means that we were possibly looking at a double stun coming in from Vainglory Esports at this point, and Veni Vidi Vici don't have any stun at this time, so they can only expect for a 6-minute stun. Catherine gets heavily aggressed on, and Catherine gets destroyed by Vox. Vox gets the first blood, and they're trying to take out Celeste as well. Celeste does go down to Vox. Vox is now 2 kills ahead of Vainglory Esports. and he just casually sits down and collects more minions. Time to port back, get some of those more items back into the pocket so they can come back up into the lane, deal more damage, and harass the opponents. And it seems that our stream has been heavily zoomed in. Gotta fix that. Sorry guys. Alright, we're back in the game and we can see a lot of damage coming in from both sides. Vox trying to take out those minions, trying to help counter push the minion wave that's been pushed into their side. Celeste is dealing quite a lot of damage. Catherine does go back in, trying to build up those stacks. Celeste misses her core collapse. Glaive is back up on top. He's going to possibly toss an afterburn onto Vox. Vox makes his distance away from Glaive. Taka comes up into the lane. And a lot of damage coming onto Glaive. Glaive does take the defensive afterburn, gets away with light health. Celeste also just barely gets away, but now does die. And Catherine also dies to Taka. Oh, Vox. Wow, Vox dealing a lot of damage with the resonance bounces, just enough to take out the opponents. Vox does go back, gets himself the Poison Shiv. Poison Shiv, although it has been hit by about 5% attack speed reduction, Vox's Sonic Zoom is just enough for him to deal some of those slightest amounts of basic attack damage onto Catherine and Celeste and Glaive. The fact that Catherine's bubble bounces off a lot of the damage that's been dealt onto her and is going to be a lot of damage harassment and damage reduction, but Vox's Sonic Zoom deals less damage. Glaive does go back into the top, tries to afterburn Vox towards Celeste, but does miss. Catherine goes back in, tries to build some more of those precious stacks, but all she does is take extra unnecessary damage. Taka does go an extra Etsu onto Catherine, onto Celeste. Consistent damage as it's basically a stalemate. Taka does go down, take the enemy healer, and now plan to head back home. He does manage to escape from danger, but he has very less health. Does manage to Kaku away and a Titan over Glaive, and that's a dead Glaive. Taka seems to build a lot of weapon power right now. He did sell his weapon damage at this point, does get himself a Eclipse Prism and Hourglass, but that's all that he's gotten himself at this point. So he's turning towards crystal damage from the weapon damage, so that's going to be less damage from the basic attacks, but now that he's level 6, he doesn't need to worry about it. Catherine continues to build a stack onto Arden, but that's the only thing that we're looking at. Catherine does go back, trying to drop that stun onto Vox. Vox does manage to afterburn away. Takes in a lot of damage from the Heliogenesis. Takes in an immense amount of damage from Glaive with the afterburn and tension bow proc. But it's a counter damage coming onto Glaive and Catherine, but that's a 1-for-1, 1-for-2 trade for Veni Vidi Vici. Taka does go down, thinks of stealing the enemy minion mines, but all he can do is just walk around as Glaive did secure the back minions, and Vox does go and steal the front heal minion. That's all that he managed to do right now. Celeste coming back up into the lane with nothing more than a light armor. Not gonna be a lot, but at 7 minutes, it's all that you can possibly afford for Celeste, as she has to build the damage for the team, because all Glaive can do is in 1 second do all the possible damage that he can. And that's it. So Celeste has to consistently deal the damage in this case. She has to be the burst bruiser in a way. Looking at a lot of vision coming in from Veni Vidi Vici, and not a lot of mines coming in from Catherine, but she did decide to purchase a couple Catherines. Catherine does try to go back, attempt to stun someone with her Merciless Pursuit, but Veni Vidi Vici have been granted some mercy. Arden face checks into Catherine. Catherine can't do anything but walk back as Taka and Vox is supporting Arden. Taka does get stunned, takes in a lot of damage from the afterburn, from the tension bow proc. Minions trying to go back into the turret, trying to push in. Veni Vidi Vici trying to take out the turrets, and the turrets have been harassed, and nothing more. Turrets slightly damaged, and the slight damage won't go anymore as Veni Vidi Vici decide to move back, and Valkyrie Esports stay near their healer. Goldmine is really healthy right now. He has a lot of gold in his pocket, so it's about time that either teams decide to capture the gold miner for the bonus 300 gold. Back up in the lane, Celeste does go back, trying to take that extra CS. Vox doing significantly better than Celeste. Granted the fact that Celeste has really bad lane clear early game. Late game is when she shines, so if she manages to get the minions, the items required to clear those minions, then it's gonna be easy for Celeste to get the CS. Taka does go in with the X-Retsu and the Chitin, and does Kaku away, but Arden does finish off Celeste with the Block of Blood. Glaive comes back up, tries to afterburn and severely damage Vox. Vox does survive with the Fountain Renewal coming in from Arden, and the Gauntlet, that's 3-man stun coming in by Catherine onto Veni Vidi Vici, but they all survive as Taka did manage to escape the silence, and Turret on the other hand is going to go down for Valkyrie Esports. That's a gold in the hands of Veni Vidi Vici, and Valkyrie Esports. Celeste is staying up in the lane, trying to clear those minions and trying to push those minions into the enemy's turrets just so that she can recall and get the extra items. She's building towards a possible defense, but does manage to secure an Eve of Harvest instead, trying to get that extra lifesteal. But looking at Taka, who has a lot of burst damage, lifesteal early game is not going to be a very great idea, but the fact that she's not even gotten herself any defensive item to counter Taka's burst, that's going to be a slight problem. Down in the jungle, Taka does a lot of damage onto Glaive. Glaive taking severe damage from Taka and does manage to get away from Taka, and Taka instead decides to X-Retsu onto Celeste, and Celeste gets deleted in a second. The X-Retsu Titan combo, too high for anyone to bear at this point, since no one has ever built any crystal defense. Glaive is the only one with slight defense against Taka. Catherine taking unnecessary damage. Glaive tries to go back in, trying to be the hero of this fight, but instead takes in a lot of damage from Taka and Vox, as they have a lot of proc coming in from the tension bow and just plain burst coming in. Taka does go in, trying to do the X-Retsu onto Celeste. Celeste taking severe damage from Taka. Taka does survive a lot of stunts coming in from Catherine. Catherine's 22 stacks at 12 minutes. Moderate enough, but Vox taking in unnecessary burst damage. One aftershock, one afterburn, and he is possibly dead, but he did not die. He survives and he walks away, which is a good news. Oh, kind of made a mistake. There you go. Oh god. So, back on the full, everyone, and this time everyone can see the entire screen. My bad. Now, anyways, Valkyrie Esports have to do a lot right now to counter the damage coming in from Vainglory. Blocks is back up in the lanes with Celeste on the other side. Catherine is ready for a possible stun, but Arden's always sitting down there for the protection. The burst barrier coming in from Arden is just enough to save anyone who is almost closing to that death from a possible death. Taka goes back in, drops in an extra Atlas onto Celeste, but does get stunned by Catherine. Catherine goes back in, tries to drop in that extra Atlas Baldwin onto Vox, but instead takes an unnecessary damage from Vox and Taka. Taka goes back into deep, trying to take out the Catherine. Glaive dies to Vox as his basic attacks does manage to pop in a lot of procs from the Tension Bow and the Sorrow Blade. Too high for Glaive to bear at this point as he has no armor, so that is a lot of damage dealt by both the damage dealers from Vainglory. Valkyrie Esports have to think twice about what's going to happen at this point. There's going to be 2 turrets, possibly going to be game, and that's going to be an Atlas onto Catherine, but Catherine's going to take even more damage, and now Glaive does have to burn Vox in. Vox does get burst focused down right now, but Arden drops in the emergency barrier. Vox does manage to clear out 2 enemies, and Taka finishes off the third. That's a third ace. That's a game for Vainglory. Valkyries for GG, and show you the builds right now for everyone. And MVP of this game, in my opinion, would have to be Taka for the extreme aggression coming in from his side onto Celeste and shutting her down, harassing her and pushing her in the back lines so that Vox can stay happy and farm off as much as he wants. As you can see, he has about a 10 CS per minute average, nearing about 11 CS per minute. Looking at Celeste, and she's only 90 creeps at 15 minutes. That is absolutely weak at this level of competition. So the only thing that you can think of right now is let Celeste practice on the creep scores, or probably keep her in the jungle, as the jungle clear from Celeste is much better than the land clear, and she can level up faster and get that level spike, the damage spike, earlier than the enemy's carry. But anyways, thanks for watching the first game. We'll be back in about 40 minutes to stream the next round. Until then, peace.
I'm running away from this pain. I'm trying to find a new way where the sun's shining down on my face. I'm running away. You're in a toxic relationship. Time to be free. I'm trying to find a new way where the sun's shining down on my face. I'm running away. You're in a toxic relationship. Time to be free.
changes.
Life. Life.
I'm running away from this pain. I'm trying to find a new way where the sun's shining down on my face. I'm running away. You're in a toxic relationship. Time to be free. I'm trying to find a new way where the sun's shining down on my face. I'm running away. You're in a toxic relationship. Time to be free.
Hello and welcome to the Lunaris North American 3v3 drafts. Today we have Team Individual going against Apatio Esports, and we have a guest caster coming in from North American Champions League, NACL, as everyone knows it, and his name is Blickinator. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Glad to be here and help out with the Lunaris Tournament. Definitely always a good thing to cast some good games, and hopefully this will be a good one here.
Alright, so we have a Grumpjaw and a Grayspan coming in from Team Individual 3 and Apatio Esports. Grumpjaw, what do you think? Is his tanking, his damage dealt per damage soak ratio high enough for anyone to continue banning him? I feel that Blackfeather has a very good counter against him. What do you feel about this guy?
I think he's honestly a really reasonable ban. The tankiness to him early game, plus the just early game damage output, even on the roam side, he's really hard to deal with, and the use of his stuffed up, his ultimate, being able to just take one of the out of a team fight is just very devastating to teams. I still think that he's a very viable ban.
All right. So we're looking at a Catherine pick, and countering the Catherine pick is a Glaive and an Arden. In a way, Catherine has a lot of stun and silence coming in, but the fact that Glaive has a lot of mobility and Arden's mobility coming in from his vanguards, do you think... I feel, in my opinion, Arden and Glaive have a really good upper hand against Catherine in this tournament. An alpha pick as well to counter, in a way, Arden would seem good, but what do you feel about the core overload stacks taking out Arden's barriers?
Alpha definitely not that bad of a pick. Really good pick into Arden. But I really like the Glaive, and we're gonna see a Sky come out.
Swap heroes.
So it could be Sky, but we might be seeing a lane weapon Glaive possibly with the CP Jungle Sky.
Yeah.
Seeing that a lot lately. If played right, that weapon Glaive can be really good, especially against the Ringo. Able to dive in there with the afterburn and just get him out of position under that Sky forward barrage. Definitely gonna look like a good game here.
But then you also have Ringo, who can also drop in a lot of slows, and his innate attack speed increase can be enough for dishing out a lot of surprising damage, per se, onto anyone who tries to kite him. Like, as you know, Ringo is one of the few players who is very good to kite with. Yeah,
definitely. Ringo, definitely strong pick. Has begun. I would have to say, just based on the draft, the advantage definitely is looking more towards Apatio with that Glaive Sky Arden. I'm liking the gauntlet on the Arden can be really helpful. The afterburn, getting able to get both Catherine and Ringo out of position very well. Can definitely see this thing going a very good team matchup here. But could go either way. That alpha pick is definitely strong into this comp.
Seems that our broadcasting service has crashed, so I gotta set that up. But from as far as I know, Catherine did not get any cooldown, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I would believe that you're correct with that.
I would say that not buying any Catherine on cooldown on a Catherine would affect the cooldown on those stuns, but then again, she's not stacking up. She hasn't used any stack at this point, or has she?
No stacks yet on the Catherine. Definitely, the light shield not that bad of a start with Catherine though. Getting you closer to that fountain early on. Definitely just able to get that cooldown afterwards. Just get a few stacks early on. It's not a bad idea, but the Sky countering this Alpha and Catherine really hard because the forward barrage with CP does not proc her bubble.
True. I can.
And able to kite the Alpha very well with the forward barrage. Alpha, while it is easy to hook onto her, you can easily just with the Surrey Strike move around her and just continue to kite her. So definitely the upper hand for Stinson with that Sky.
But Stinson should also be super careful, like, to time his bees, Surrey Strikes, because, you know, like, Suri Strike is the bread and butter for the flanking ability for Skye, but usually people would start with the Suri Strike onto targets just to do that harassing buffer, the harassing damage onto them. So, what do you think? Like, would we be expecting a Suri Strike at the start of a fight, or at the mid of a fight, or at the end of a fight in this case?
Definitely, I mean, I play Skye a lot, and seeing a lot of just higher up people playing Skye, and we're gonna see this forward barrage getting Alpha down because she got put in the reboot. Arden able to keep Stinson alive just barely. So that's gonna be a first blood for Tapashio. But yeah, back to what I was saying, it's always good to go in, start with the forward barrage, use that Suri Strike to get out of danger and also reposition yourself during those fights to get out and just be able to dish out more damage with that forward barrage.
Arden, Glaive just managed. Yeah, Glaive just managed to get away from that damage. But I would say that the invade coming in from Skye at this point, in a way, would be super powerful. But if Glaive would have continued following them, like, it would have been a better idea for the invade, as it would force Ringo to calm down. And Skye does a lot of damage, so she could have possibly shut him down in a way.
Yeah, Glaive able to get out of there with the afterburn. Pashio separated very hard here. And find out. It looks like that's gonna be a kill for the individuals.
Arden does get the heal, but it's not useful in any way because he has so low health, and the fact that that Alpha does not have any energy and her cooldown is so low on her B, it just, I don't find any use of Arden in the early game until he gets his fountain renewal or any vision setup to counter any possible attacks coming in from Alpha.
Yeah, definitely.
You also notice that Arden also does not have any contract in his pocket, so he is trying to rush into the the fountain renewal ASAP to
wanting to rush into that fountain, yet Catherine's still able to get that fountain up before Arden can. So individual is definitely having a spike here, having the fountain up, while Pashio does not. So they might be looking to engage here.
I mean, Skye on the other hand already has her Frostburn, but she does get focused really hard by
getting caught out, but able to get out with Suri Strike. Death from above, landing on Alpha. And Alpha's gonna get put into reboot with the afterburn. Ringo locking onto the Skye, but not able to take her out, and Alpha goes down. Great afterburn by Glaive, able to shut Alpha down.
But they've taken too much damage. I don't think they have to necessarily continue damaging.
Now, we do still have the fountain on Arden again.
Oh, yes.
There goes the fountain on Arden. Afterburn coming out. Ringo gonna get taken down. Great fountain by Thickdog. And that's gonna be Catherine and Ringo both out.
Double kill
For individuals. Great use of the fountain there by Thickjaw, able to let Glaive get in there with the afterburn and just cancel out.
Alpha going back into the fight alone against really high burst coming in from the entirety of Tapachio. In a way.
Interesting seeing Skye go with this Stormguard banner and not going for the early afterburn.
I didn't get you. What did you mean by the early Stormguard banner and what?
Alpha has a Stormguard banner right now. I can see she's trying to use it for the farm, but Stormcrown, while the cooldown does help with her abilities, not always the best for damage output. Definitely good to go with that early aftershock. Gets an damage spike early on. It helps you able to just get a lot of defense and just pink up while still getting a high amount of damage.
Yeah, like, if you look at her build, she's also heading towards a broken myth, if anything. The fact that Alpha is not able to stick onto opponents for as long because of the mobility coming in from the opponent's side, they have to rethink this idea of the breaking of broken myth.
Oh, nice Suri Strike coming out, able to knock the Alpha down in the ring. The tension bow proc coming out on Ringo, taking him down low, but not able to finish him off, and Glaive goes down from the Catherine stun.
I would say the split focus. The split focus got them real good in this team fight. They should have thought about this again, but the gauntlet.
Death from above coming down, just missing Ringo. Sky gonna be able to take Alpha down. Can she hit Ringo as well? Nope, stun coming out, keeping Sky off, but able to do some damage. Nice damage off on Catherine. Ringo not quite being taken down, able to port back. Definitely some good synergy by team individuals. Definitely getting behind Tapashio with a 3K gold lead, just under 3K. But they might be bringing this game back because they're starting to get a bit more synergy, starting to be able to knock Glaive off. Oh, nice afterburn coming out, locking Catherine down into the wall. And that's going to be another kill for Team Tapashio.
Seems like there is
so,
a bad
based on the
audio
gameplay
line.
and the builds going on right now, how do you think this game is going to be decided with these two teams?
Well, looking at Sky's build and Glaive's current build, you are possibly looking at extremely less, a lot of confidence coming in from Tapadio Esports, because neither Ringo nor Alpha is able to dish enough damage to harass any one of them. As you saw, Ringo just got melted down by Sky, as she has a lot of crystal power at 8 minutes compared to the amount of defense that Ringo has. He has no defense at this point, and Alpha also has no damage output, as I said before, so they have to think about this twice, as again, Alpha being put into the reboot with no possible damage output.
Prime Directive coming in, protocol, not quite getting laid down, and Alpha's going to go down in that process. That tension bow definitely helping to burst down Alpha when she's in that reboot.
Yeah, as I said.
Great itemization by Glaive.
As I said, you are not buying any defense, just building a lot of damage. It's easy to harass them.
And the Surrey Strike being able to go in behind Ringo. Sky, oh! The reflex block coming out on Hockey Flame. Oh! Nice play by Thickjaw, going in there to finish off the Ringo while going down himself. This might be a turret for Tapashio, but Alpha's about to come in here and just jump on that Glaive.
Alpha does manage to take out the Glaive, continues to damage Sky, but I don't think that this trade would have been was a good idea, because they handed over a lot of bounty towards Alpha and Catherine. So in the end, all the gold lead that they had is now covered up by those two bounties, and now they have just about near 2k gold lead, about a 1.5k gold lead in a way.
Yeah, individuals definitely starting to close the gap in that gold lead for Tapadio. Definitely starting to bring this game back. Now that the Alpha has a broken mesh, she will have a big damage spike if she can get those stacks up. But still questioning the play of not going for the Aftershock. Definitely a bit surprising. Almost see it just about every time on Alpha. It's a really good itemization. Helps her with the cooldown. And just that little bit of life steal from Aftershock definitely helps in those team fights.
I mean, if anything, the Aftershock's main use would be for an anti-tank, and you're looking at two super tanky characters. Glaive does go down to his overextension, but I think Sky can manage a 3v2 team fight.
Oh, nice retribution coming down by Catherine. Gonna shut down that Sky able to boost out. Or Barrage coming down. Massive damage off from Hockey on that Ringo. And, oh, Alpha going back in. The Frostburn slowing her down a lot of damage. And that might be a reboot for Alpha.
I mean, if anything, Alpha can go back in and dish out a lot of damage.
Not doing enough damage though, and Alpha's taken down.
Alpha does get deleted, but I would say that if it was well timed, that would have been one dead Sky, because of the stacks coming in from her broken mid and also her ultimate. And the fact that Sky has no defense.
Yeah, it was a great termination protocol and Prime Directive going off by Alpha, but a little bit of a miscommunication. Alpha alone just using 1v2 in Sky and Arc. And that's what Lester is good at. Ooh, nice gauntlet coming down, but Ringo gonna be able to take out Sky. Ooh, Arden knocking Ringo down. Glaive trying to clean up on the Catherine, but Alpha still sitting there with their second life still intact and at full health.
We're looking at 8 stacks on Alpha.
For individuals.
I would say this was a very bad mispositioning coming in from Tapadio Esports. So this gave Alpha another chance of taking advantage of the mispositioning. And Catherine's stun just punishes those extensions with the extra stun, letting Ringo and Alpha stick on to the target, whoever is stunned.
Yeah, definitely. Now that Alpha has the Aegis, she's definitely able to survive those forward barrages from Sky. Sky not her broken hip yet. So once she gets that broken hip, though, that is going to be huge damage spike for Sky.
Build-wise, it looks like Sky is possibly going towards the Halcyon Charges at this point, because she's got herself a Tier 2 battery and Tier 2 shoes, so she's possibly going to get the Halcyon Charges just to stick onto targets for longer.
Ooh, nice silence coming out. Ringo going to be taken down by the Sky forward barrage. The E regenning Sky's off like definitely love coming down. Not like the Alpha wave with that tension low is hitting on that Alpha really hard. Termination protocol explosion just barely missing the Sky. And the Sky's going to stay alive just a little bit longer. Prime direction coming out, almost killing the Sky, but not quite able to get it off. That's going to be a counter ace for
I feel that this fight was really well played by Tapadio Esports. So, as you saw, Sky was positioning herself really well, keeping herself away from the Alpha because she knew that the only danger in this case was Alpha.
Yeah. Oh, and Ringo getting caught out. Not having much defense. That while he does have the cartlights, that tension low on blade. Alpha getting low, not having the second life. Arden gonna be able to take her down with a Vanguard and a Blood for Blood. Oh, 3 turret shots going off on Sky, and Sky is going to go down. Not going to be able to push this choke point turret, and that's going to be a life save for.
Yeah, I would say that at that point that the turret shot was. I feel like the turret was too far out there trying to take out Sky in the back regions and did not focus the minions. Had she managed to walk out of those turret ranges, she would have gotten out of the team fight, but if anything, Arden did not go back into the area to soak extra damage, to shuffle the damage coming in from the turret as well.
Yeah, definitely a misplay by them, but they were able to take out the Ringo and the Alpha, so definitely able to capitalize on that a little bit. Decent trade. We're able to get 1 turret out of that ace. So we see the Ringo here with a Starblade and a breaking point, going for the heavy defense to try not get melted, but Glaive just locking onto Ringo, and Ringo is not able to do anything. Just gets shut down by that afterburn so hard.
Yeah, great body block coming in from Arden to stop Alpha sticking on to Sky in this team fight.
Yeah, great body blocks by Arden, keeping the Prime Directive from Alpha from being able to lock onto the Sky.
Yeah.
And that looks like that's going to be a Kraken attempt for Tapadio. Not going to be too much confrontation from this Catherine. Maybe but we'll see.
Catherine, with her damage potential, with her ultimate, and her stun, is possibly high enough to capture any Kraken, in my opinion.
She does have her Retribution up, her ultimate. So she might be able to come in here and do this. Going into the Stone Guard, not able to take it though. Hellfire coming out on the back end. He's just going to get focused and melted down, and that is going to be a Kraken, as well as a kill on Catherine for Tapadio.
Yeah, the aggression coming in from Catherine. I feel that Catherine should have stayed in the backlines, just waited for her ultimate. That's all. And if she would have failed, then she could have merciless pursued it away from the team fight. Instead, she decided to go in and continue the fight, forcing Ringo to use his ultimate in this team fight.
Yeah, going in with the merciless pursuit, definitely a questionable play. I believe they would have been better to stay before to then use her ultimate to try to steal it as well as silencing them so she can get out. Nice pass, Burn coming out, Fountain coming off on Catherine, just barely keeping Hockey alive. But Glaive gonna boots and able to take out
the Ardent.
Sky and Alpha in a 1v1 right now. Alpha getting the Prime Directive off. Fury Strike coming out on Sky, putting Alpha into the reboot. And the Ford Barrage not able to take out Alpha all the way. Ford Barrage taking Alpha down. And that is going to be game for Team Audio. Definitely great game by Sky. Definitely countered the Catherine very hard that game. Definitely a bit questionable the Alpha going with the Storm Crown, especially going so late in the game, finishing it off so late, having that second item. Definitely cost them the game, I think. I think if she would have gone Aftershock, that might have been a whole different game, because you have both Arden and Glaive are very tanky, and having that cooldown early game with that Aftershock, you're able to stick onto that Sky a little bit more. And if you can stick onto her early game, you're able to shut her down and keep her from getting built as much. Definitely being able to turn the tide over more towards your team.
The fact that Catherine did not have
effort by both teams.
Yeah, the fact that Catherine did not have any cooldown, it kind of limited her stun count. So at the point, at the time that, I think about the 15-minute timer, they did not have enough stacks for Catherine to be tanky enough to go into a team fight alone to capture a Kraken herself.
Yeah, and the Mist doing really well on that wave lane. Going with the tension bow start was really great in giving a huge power spike, able to melt down that Ringo early game, and with that afterburn, the tension bow proc on the afterburn, able to just deal massive burst damage to Alpha, making it unpredictable and a little bit harder to activate that termination protocol.
Yeah, I think this concludes the this current round's gameplay. We will be back for the next round in about 20 to 40 minutes. We will let you know in the next screen. In the meantime, go get yourself a cup of water or anything, and be sure to check out the tournament.com and the Lunaris brackets. And until then, have a good one.
Yeah, have a nice day, stream. We'll see you next time.
I'm running away from this pain. I'm trying to find a new way where the sun's shining down on my face. I'm running away. You're in a toxic relationship. Time to be free. I'm trying to find a new way where the sun's shining down on my face. I'm running away. You're in a toxic relationship. Time to be free.
Hello and welcome to the Lunaris North American 3v3 drafts, and I am your host with the most, Mr. Rockstar 37.